Hey folks, just had to share a little bit of my excitement here. This is pretty nuts. This is an RF only portable television from 1993 made by Zenith that I have just converted into a regular television taking a composite video signal. When I say this was hard to do, that's a bit of an understatement. First off, it has what's called a hot chassis, which means the ground line is live. It doesn't go through an isolation transformer. That was the first problem to solve. I actually blew up the original chip because of this. And the way to fix it is to use a 12-volt power supply. It actually takes 12 volts from a battery. It's meant to be portable in that way. So I use a properly isolated 12-volt 5-amp power supply to get it going. Here's all my schematics and craziness. I actually did source the service manual for this, which was a real huge stroke of luck. This chip, the jungle IC that it uses, the T8879N, is just a devil of a chip. It's really a pain to configure, and partly because the external switching pin is based on a chrominance input signal, among other things. My next goal is to actually get this to do S-video, and if I'm feeling really adventurous, I might amplify some RGB lines and send them to the guns for RGB compatibility. Why am I doing all this? Because I found this on the sidewalk for free with the remote, which had some corroded batteries that I replaced and fixed. Remote and everything totally works. The TV totally works. And it's really hard, it's really not common to find these small televisions, these 9-inch televisions that do color. And in my opinion, it's probably the perfect size of a television to have for gaming, you know, really for gaming. Though watching movies and stuff, it's not so bad on this one. Quality isn't astounding by any means, but it's really not too shabby either. And we'll see what we get once we do S-video and separate the chroma and luminance signals. Now, the way that I made this happen, for anybody curious to try this themselves and kind of cut through some of the work, like I said, first is you need to isolate your power input. You can use an AC isolation transformer or a 12-volt 5-amp power supply like I did, which is much easier. There's actually room to build this inside, which would be pretty funny if I did that. And as you can see here, there's a big capacitor. That blue capacitor is normally on the other side of the chip, but since I had to replace it, I had to take it out. It's just a large coupling capacitor for that chip. And the small black wire, that's a trace correction. Don't worry about that. This large black wire is, I lifted the 47K resistor, which is right there, which goes to the microcontroller IC6000, which is down here. So I lifted that resistor, which is normally a 5-volt signal, and that now makes it 47K to ground for pin 33, which according to the datasheet is how it switches to external video mode instead of RF. Seems pretty simple, right? Well, the thing is, they left out a bunch of components in this thing because it was not designed, only certain models were designed to have composite. Fortunately, the service manual shows both models. And so even though this model is strictly RF only, it has spots for the parts to make it composite, whereas other stuff, whereas the parts that are missing, and since I have the service manual, I can tell what those are. There are two parts, gosh, they're hard to see with this camera, and I'm not going to touch this thing while it's on for obvious reasons, but under this wire here, from pin 33, there's a 1.2 kilo ohm resistor that then goes to a 0.01 microfarad capacitor to ground. And that leads from pin 33 to ground. You can see the placings for those parts are actually on the PCB, but the parts were not populated because, like I said, this wasn't meant to be in composite, what I'm doing right now. Aside from that, you need to... I went ahead and removed the this diode here. That diode's actually used for mixing the television signal, I believe. And either that or it's just used to keep the incoming signal from going out into the television signal. Either way, you can just remove it and add a 0.2 or a standard value 0.22 microfarad capacitor, negative side towards the chip, onto pin 42 there. That's really all you have to do, there's a 75 ohm resistor from the positive side of the capacitor to ground, and that's for your impedance coupling of the input. So yeah, that's it. You feed your signal in through pin 42, add those 2 missing parts to pin 33, and then put a 47 kilo ohm to ground signal on pin 33. Now it'll be really interesting if I get this to have a multiplexer switching for the RF input as well, or if I do RGB. We'll see. This is actually a present for a friend of mine who likes to play Atari 2600 in RF, and some of those old game systems only work in RF. So anybody out there that wants to hack on CRTs, use proper safety precautions. There's a lot of information on that online. These things can kill you. They have a lot of voltage, and don't blame me if you die, I guess. Don't try this at home. All that kind of disclaimer stuff. And do your research. Look up proper safety precaution before you work on these kind of things, especially because this is a hot chassis, and if you don't have a proper isolation transformer, you could really hurt yourself. So that's all for this video. Hopefully somebody found this interesting. And this is Home Alone, by the way. Great movie. Sega Sonic fan, signing out.